There is a quiet movement taking place beneath the surface of your life right now. You may not hear it with the ears, and you may not see it with the eyes, but it is moving all the same. A silent current, steady and unseen, moving through the depths of your being, shaping events long before they ever appear as form. And tonight, as you prepare to lay your body down and surrender the outer world to rest, I ask you to do something that may feel unfamiliar at first. I ask you not to chase wealth, not to reach for it, not to hunger for it with restless hands or anxious thoughts. I ask you instead to enter the state from which wealth is born. For riches are not summoned by motion. They are not compelled by effort. They are not persuaded by struggle. They are summoned by being. And the man who understands this ceases forever to beg of the world. He begins, quietly and without announcement, to command it from within. You have been trained to believe that money is something you must run after, that abundance is a reward reserved for those who labor long enough, that prosperity is a distant horizon you may someday reach if you prove yourself worthy. This belief has been repeated so often that it feels like truth. But I say to you with perfect certainty that this belief is the very reason prosperity has remained just beyond your grasp. For what you pursue, you implicitly confess you do not possess. And what you confess, you must continue to experience as absent. The law of your own being is exact. It does not reason. It does not negotiate. It simply reflects. The world does not mirror your desires. It mirrors your identity. And identity is not formed by what you chase. It is formed by what you quietly assume yourself to be. Wealth is not a number. It is not a coin. It is not a figure written on paper. Wealth is a state of consciousness. It is a condition of being. It is the settled inner knowing that one is already provided for, already supported, already sustained. And from that state, all visible forms of abundance flow as effortlessly as breath from the lungs. You were never meant to force life. You were meant to assume it. There is a sacred hour each day when the world loosens its grip on you. A moment when the noise of the senses begins to fade, when the weight of appearances softens, when the outer man grows quiet and the inner man begins to rise. That hour is the moment just before sleep. In that interval between waking and dreaming, you stand at the very threshold of creation. The conscious mind steps aside. The reasoning faculty grows dim, and the true creative power within you moves forward unobstructed. What you feel in that moment enters the womb of the subconscious, and what enters there must, by law, be born into your world. This is why I tell you that sleep is not merely rest. Sleep is creation. Sleep is prayer without words. Sleep is the moment when you lay aside the mask you wore through the day and return to the being that you truly are. If you knew the true power you hold in that final hour before unconsciousness claims the body, you would guard it as a sacred sanctuary. You would not enter it carrying fear. You would not pollute it with worry. You would not drag the dust of the day into the temple of the night. For what you carry into that stillness becomes the pattern of the world that greets you next. You are not here tonight as a seeker. You are not a wanderer searching for something outside yourself. You are here as a creator who has momentarily forgotten his own power. And my purpose in this hour is not to give you something new. It is only to remind you of what you have always been. For you do not attract wealth as something separate from yourself. You express wealth as a condition of your own being. And when you return to that condition inwardly, the outer world must follow as faithfully as a shadow follows form. The greatest deception ever accepted by man is that effort is the cause and rest is the reward. In truth, rest is the cause and effort is the effect. When the soul rests in the certainty of being provided for, the hands move without strain, the mind without conflict, and the world rearranges itself without resistance. But when the soul strains in the belief that it must still earn its right to exist freely, then even the greatest labor yields only exhaustion. Tonight, I call you to abandon effort, not in your actions, but in your identity. To stop trying to become rich, and instead to remember that the state of wealth is already within you, waiting only for your consent. You do not need to fight your way into abundance. You need only to remove the sense of separation from it. The moment you feel yourself to be the one who is already supported, The law begins to work on your behalf without delay, without noise, without announcement. You may feel tired of trying. You may feel weary from waiting. You may feel as though you have given everything, and still the door has not opened. And I tell you gently now that the door does not open by pushing. It opens when you realize you are already standing on the other side inwardly. For every door in your world is first a door in your consciousness, and every limitation you experience was once a silent agreement you made within yourself, without even knowing you had done so. So do not come to this hour as one who asks. Come as one who remembers. Do not listen as one who hopes. Listen as one who knows. What I am speaking to you now is not a promise of something to come. It is a description of what already is. The wealth you seek is not coming. It is responding. It is responding. It is responding to the state you are willing to occupy. When no one else is watching, when the lights are out, when the world has fallen asleep, and only your inner being remains awake. This is the mystery that has always governed the rise and fall of men, the increase and the lack, the open door and the closed one. It is never circumstance. It is always state. And tonight I will lead you not toward the object called wealth, but into the state called wealth. Not into seeking, but into being. Not into effort, but into rest. As you listen, you need do nothing. There is nothing to achieve. There is nothing to prove. There is only a state to enter, and the state does not demand strength. It requires surrender. It does not require belief. It requires consent. The consent to let go of the old man who struggles, and to assume the being of the man who simply is. Even now, even before your eyes grow heavy, even before your body yields to sleep, something in you already knows the truth of what is being spoken. For the being that you are cannot lie to itself. It can only remember or forget. And tonight you are not forgetting. Tonight you are remembering. The one who chases is always behind. The one who is always ahead. The one who begs is always empty. The one who assumes is always full. And life, being no respecter of persons, responds only to states. The night does not belong to those who worry. It belongs to those who surrender. The man who enters sleep as a beggar will awaken as a beggar. The man who enters sleep as an heir will awaken as an heir, moving through a world that must confirm his inheritance. You have been taught to believe that you must see before you feel. I tell you with unwavering certainty that you must feel before you can ever see. The inner world is the cause. The outer world is the effect. And the effect can never rise above its cause. So tonight, let this be the hour you stop running. Let this be the hour you stop knocking. Let this be the hour you stop asking the world to approve of your becoming. You do not need permission to be what you have already assumed yourself to be. The night is not empty. It is fertile. It is the womb in which all futures are conceived. And what you consent to be in this stillness must, by law, step into form. You are not laying down to escape life tonight. You are laying down to enter it at its source. You are not closing your eyes to avoid the world. You are closing them to remember who commands it. And so, as this darkness gently gathers around you, you do not fall asleep as one who is waiting for wealth to arrive. You fall asleep as one who has already arrived at the state from which wealth must flow. You are not preparing for abundance. You are remembering that you already are abundance in expression. And now, without effort, without urgency, without struggle, allow these words to carry you out of the old posture of seeking and into the quiet posture of being. For what you are about to enter is not a method. It is not a formula. It is not a technique. It is a state. And once you have entered it, the world will never again look the same to you. There is a strange paradox in this world that few ever dare to question. The one who chases money most desperately is often the one who feels it slipping through his fingers, while the one who scarcely thinks of it finds it flowing toward him with quiet ease. This is not coincidence. It is not luck. It is not fate. It is law. A law so simple, so exact, and so impersonal that it operates whether you understand it or not. You see, the world does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. Desire, when born from lack, only multiplies its own emptiness. The man who runs after money confesses by his very running that he believes himself without it. And the world, being the most faithful mirror, reflects that belief back to him in endless forms of delay, struggle, and insufficiency. I have seen men labor for decades, with clenched jaws and weary hands, certain that one day their relentless effort would at last be rewarded. Yet when the reward came, if it came at all, it was often short-lived, fragile, and quickly lost. And I have seen others, with no visible striving, no frantic grasping, move quietly into prosperity, as though it had always belonged to them. The difference was never in the hours of work. It was always in the concept of self. The man who pursues wealth believes it to be separate from him. He sees it as an object in the distance, a prize to be seized, a thing withheld until he proves himself worthy. And because he holds it as separate, it must forever remain so. The man who assumes wealth as a condition of being does not chase it. He does not beg it. He does not bargain with life for it. He simply is it. And because he is it, the world must express it. I tell you now something that may unsettle the old way of thinking you have carried for years. You do not receive what you desire. You receive what you consent to be. Desire is movement toward being, is rest within. And only what you rest within takes form. The beggar and the king may both desire bread, but one begs for it while the other commands it without words. The bread comes not because of the desire, but because of the identity from which the desire is expressed. One desires from hunger, the other desires from sovereignty, and life answers them accordingly. There is a subtle posture of the soul that determines whether it stands as a petitioner before the world or as a claimant within it. Most men live as if knocking on a door that was never locked. They ask for permission to receive what was always theirs by nature. They speak as though they were outsiders to life, hoping to be admitted into a room that has never excluded them, except in their own imagination. The one who asks lives in the shadow of doubt. The one who assumes lives in the certainty of possession, and certainty is creative. The great error of man is not that he desires too much. It is that he desires from the wrong position. He desires as one who lacks rather than as one who is. And as long as he desires as one who lacks, he must continue to experience lack as the structure of his world. You may say within yourself, but how can I assume when the evidence of my senses cries out against me? How can I be what I am not yet? And I answer you this: you are already being what you are not yet seeing. Every condition in your life today is the shadow cast by the state you previously occupied. You are never becoming from nothing. You are expressing from an unseen state already accepted. The outer man always lags behind the inner. The world you see today was imagined yesterday, and the world you will see tomorrow is the echo of what you allow yourself to be tonight. The pursuer has not understood this. He believes that action creates being. He believes that if he moves enough, struggles enough, sacrifices enough, then eventually he will earn the right to feel secure, to feel free, to feel abundant. Yet, the order is reversed. Being creates action. State gives birth to motion. And motion without the right state is noise, without power. There is a man within every man whom I call the inner beggar. This inner beggar whispers softly but persistently, one day I will have enough. One day I will finally be safe. One day I will rest. And as long as this voice is believed, that one day remains forever beyond reach. For tomorrow is the perpetual refuge of the man who will not consent to be rich now. The inner beggar is not concerned with money alone. He begs for approval, for recognition, for reassurance, for permission to feel whole. And because he asks, he must continue to ask. For asking implies that the thing asked for is not yet possessed. The law hears only implication. It does not hear words. It hears identity. When you say, I want to be rich, what the law hears is, I am poor. And it proceeds faithfully to organize your world around that statement of being. Not as punishment, not as reward, but as reflection. But when a man says within himself, without force, without strain, without argument, I am the one for whom provision is natural, then something extraordinary begins to unfold. The fever of pursuit leaves him. The tension of lack dissolves, and life, liberated from resistance, begins to flow toward him along lines he could never have plotted with the reasoning mind. I am not telling you to stop working. I am telling you to stop working from the state of need. I am not telling you to abandon action. I am telling you to abandon the identity of the one who believes. Action alone must save him. When the inner posture changes, the outer labor becomes light, precise, effective, and strangely guided. The world is not stingy. It is exact. It does not withhold. It mirrors. And if life appears to withhold from you, it is because you have unknowingly withheld from yourself by the image you have consented to wear inwardly. The man who believes the world owes him nothing will receive nothing without struggle. The man who knows himself to be the source from which his world flows will watch circumstances rearrange themselves to confirm his knowing. There is a vast difference between the one who hopes and the one who expects. Hope is the language of the anxious future. Expectation is the posture of the already possessed. And nature bows only to expectation. When the inner man stands upright, the outer world no longer needs to be pushed. It is drawn as iron to a magnet. But the magnet does not chase the iron. It simply is what it is, and the metal moves in response. So too, with wealth. It does not pursue the frantic seeker. It cannot respond to the one who approaches it as though it were scarce. It flows only toward the state that reflects its own nature, and that nature is fullness. The world is a mirror so faithful that it never lies. It does not flatter. It does not argue. It multiplies. It takes the state you entertain as reality and expands it into form. If you entertain insufficiency, the mirror multiplies it. If you entertain sovereignty, the mirror multiplies that. The man who demands from the world as a frightened child will receive as a frightened child. The man who quietly knows his place within being receives as one in his inheritance. The difference is not in volume, it is in position. I have watched men curse fortune for favoring others while never once questioning the state from which they were looking. They believed the world should rise to meet their wishing while never consenting to rise inwardly to the state that would compel that meeting. You cannot outwork a state. You cannot outrun an identity. You cannot force life to contradict the image you serve within yourself. For you do not move through the world as a body. You move through the world as a concept, and the world arranges itself around that concept with undeviating precision. This is why I say to you now that the true shift is not in what you do, but in who you dare to be. The outer man wants a better job, larger sums, easier days. The inner man must accept a new image of himself. And until he does, the outer wishes remain only wishes. The one who begs says, "Will you give me?" The one who assumes says, "This is mine." And the world answers each according to the spirit in which he speaks. You may have prayed in the language of asking for years. You may have pleaded for relief, for provision, for rescue, but the prayer that moves mountains is not the prayer that begs. It is the prayer that assumes fulfillment as already done. The prayer that gives thanks not because it hopes, but because it knows. The mindset of the pursuer is strain. The mindset of the possessor is calm, and calm is power. The world is not moved by desperation. It is shaped by quiet authority. The man who stands inwardly, as one who is already provided for, has ceased to argue with life. He has ended the debate between what is and what ought to be within himself. And when that debate ends within, it ends without. I tell you truly, the money you seek flees from your grasp only because you are running after it as something you are not yet entitled to. The moment you cease to chase and begin to assume, what ran will turn and come. For no one outruns his own shadow, and no one outpaces his own being. The moment you relinquish the posture of the seeker and consent to the posture of the possessor, a great stillness enters your world, and in that stillness, things begin to move. The beggar inside you must be dismissed, not fought, not condemned, but gently released. He was born of misunderstanding. He believed that life was outside him. He believed that supply lived elsewhere. He believed that one day was safer than now. And all of these beliefs were only dreams spoken with conviction. The man who awakens no longer dreams of tomorrow as salvation. He enters today as inheritance. And this is where true reprogramming begins, not with words repeated aloud, not with images forced upon the mind, but with the quiet shift of identity, from the one who pursues to the one who permits, from the one who asks to the one who claims, from the one who waits to the one who rests. You are not called to convince the world. You are called to assume yourself, and once you do, the world has no choice but to agree. You have never been denied by life. You have only ever been answered according to your state. So as you continue listening, allow the old image of the struggler to soften. Let the old stance of effort relax. There is no need to fight it. It dissolves naturally when a higher identity is quietly accepted. What you are learning now is not how to get money. It is how to leave the state that made money seem distant. And once that state is abandoned, the thing you sought no longer needs to be chased. It is simply met, for the law is reversed from what you were taught. You do not become rich by getting, you get because you have become. There is a self that walks through the world in daylight, and there is a self that lives in secret when the doors are closed and the eyes of others are no longer upon you. The first is the mask. The second is the master. The world responds not to the face you show, but to the identity you inhabit when no one is watching. For it is in your solitude that the true concept of self is revealed, and from that hidden image, all visible conditions flow. You may speak of wealth by day. You may speak of confidence, opportunity, growth, and success. But I ask you now, who are you when the lights are out and the room is silent? What do you feel to be natural? What do you accept as normal? What identity rests comfortably within you when all effort falls away? That is the state that governs your finances. That is the law that rules your world. For your true bank is not a building of stone. It is not a ledger of figures. It is not a vault guarded by iron doors. Your true bank is the image you quietly carry of yourself. And from that bank, you withdraw every condition you ever experience. When a man comes into a sudden fortune and loses it as quickly as it arrived, the world calls it chance. I call it self-concept. The outer gain entered a house that could not contain it. The identity within could not sustain what the circumstance offered. And so the money departed, not because life was cruel, but because the inner state could not hold it. You may place gold within the hands of a man who secretly believes himself unworthy, and that gold will slip through his fingers as though it were water. You may crown a king who still feels like a servant within, and his kingdom will quietly unravel, for the inner image always prevails. The outer world cannot outrun the identity that generates it. There is a normal within you that functions as law. You may not be aware of it, but it governs with exact authority. If struggle feels normal, you will recreate struggle even in the midst of opportunity. If lack feels familiar, abundance will feel foreign, and what is foreign is rarely allowed to stay. The soul always returns to what feels like home. This is why I tell you that manifestation is not magic. It is permission. You do not receive what you dream of. You receive what you allow yourself to be. And what you allow yourself to be is defined by what feels natural when no one is trying to impress, perform, or prove. You may consciously desire wealth, yet unconsciously reject it by the identity you secretly cling to. You may want freedom, yet feel safest in confinement. You may pray for change, yet feel loyal to the past. And loyalty to the past is one of the most powerful anchors a man can unknowingly choose. Do not think of identity as an idea. Identity is a gravity. It pulls circumstances into orbit around itself. And the stronger the sense of normal becomes, the stronger its pull. It is not what you think occasionally that creates your world. It is what you feel to be ordinary. Many men wonder why they receive a breakthrough only to return again to hardship. They believe something outside was lost. They never consider that something inside remained unchanged. They moved outward without moving inward, and so the old state reclaimed its throne. When you lie in bed at night, stripped of titles, stripped of roles, stripped of effort, who do you feel yourself to be? Do you feel like life is generous to you, or do you feel that you must wrestle it for every inch of ground? That feeling is your financial center. From it, you issue silent instructions to the world. Your world is not reacting to your hope. It is responding to your habit of being, and habits of being are formed in stillness, far more than in action. The man who appears confident by day, but collapses into self-doubt by night, lives under the authority of the night self. The man who rests inwardly in quiet assurance by night will find his day rearranging itself without strain. This is the great reversal that so few contemplate. The visible self does not command the invisible self. The invisible self commands the visible world. You may decorate your thoughts with affirmations and still live in lack if the core image remains untouched. Pay attention not to what you say about yourself, but to what feels believable. The believable is the creative field. The unbelievable remains only spectacle. There is a character you have been playing for so long that you have forgotten it was ever a role. You may call it realism. You may call it caution. You may call it experience. But it is simply an identity worn long enough to feel like truth. And life treats it as truth without question. This character may say, "This is how far I go. This is all I can expect. This is what happens to people like me." And life, obedient beyond measure, says, "So be it." To change the outer conditions, you must first retire the inner actor. You must become willing to release the version of yourself that made struggle feel inevitable and replace it with one for whom provision is natural. This is not done with force. It is done with familiarity. The new identity must feel as normal as the old one once did. The subconscious accepts only what feels like home. And what feels like home is what it recreates again and again. The night is where identity is rehearsed. By day you may pretend to be anything. By night you return to what you believe you truly are. This is why sleep is sacred. This is why the state you enter before sleep is the doorway through which tomorrow must pass. Who you are in that quiet hour is who you are becoming. And who you are becoming is who the world will soon meet in flesh. A man who secretly sees himself as fortunate will interpret every event as movement toward his good. A man who secretly sees himself as cursed will turn even blessings into losses. The difference is invisible to the eye, but entirely visible to the law. You may think the market decides who grows rich. You may think opportunity lifts one and bypasses another. You may think timing is the master of your fate. But I tell you, identity rules all. The market, the opportunity, the timing are only the garments identity chooses to wear. Many come into money and feel uncomfortable inside it. They hurry to escape from it without knowing why. They spend wildly, sabotage opportunities, trust poorly, or drift back into struggle. The world calls this irresponsibility. I call it the subconscious returning to what feels normal. You cannot live long in a state that feels unnatural without suffering. And so the soul will always guide you back to the familiar self-concept, unless you deliberately expand what feels natural through inner acceptance. This is why true wealth must be claimed inwardly before it can be sustained outwardly. Otherwise, it remains a visitor, not a resident. You do not rise permanently above the level of your self-image. You return to it as water returns to its deepest resting point. If you widen that basin inwardly, you widen the capacity of your world outwardly. But if you do not, the waters may rise briefly, only to overflow and drain away. When you understand this, you stop blaming circumstance. You stop fearing luck. You stop begging opportunity. You turn instead to the one place where all change is born. You turn inward to the being you consent to inhabit. You begin to ask not, "How do I make more money?" but rather, "Who must I be so that abundance is natural to me?" And that single question opens a doorway that effort can never force. The world is not training you to become something. It is revealing what you already believe yourself to be. Every gain is a confirmation. Every loss is a correction. Every cycle is a message written in circumstance telling you the truth about your inner consent. You are never punished by life. You are instructed by it. And the instruction is always the same. This is who you believe yourself to be. When you see this clearly, you no longer feel victim to conditions. You feel responsibility for identity. And responsibility is not burden. It is power returned. You are not asked to fight the world. You are asked to select the self from which the world must take instruction. The secret you have perhaps never been told is that identity changes quietly. It changes not by willpower, but by familiarity. You do not become wealthy by exerting force. You become wealthy by resting long enough in the feeling of already being the one for whom wealth is normal. This resting is not idleness. It is acceptance. The old state collapses when the new state is given precedence. through repeated consent. Each night you choose who you return to being, and each morning you awaken into the consequences of that choice. So now, even as these words flow through you, something deeper than the thinking mind begins to loosen. The old image of yourself begins to feel less solid, less fixed, less final. That is not weakness, that is transformation. For what you are now discovering is not how to change money. You are discovering how to change the one who receives it. And when the receiver changes, the supply must follow. Man has been taught to believe that thought is the power, that words are the instrument, that repetition is the force. And yet I have watched thousands think noble thoughts and remain unchanged, speak holy words and stay imprisoned in the same conditions, repeat affirmations endlessly and see no transformation follow. And so I tell you now with certainty, born of experiment and observation, thought alone does not create, feeling creates. The body is the altar. Sensation is the command. You may think of wealth and remain poor. You may speak of abundance and remain bound. You may imagine success and wake again in the same confinement. But when the body feels possession, when the flesh accepts fulfillment as present, the world cannot refuse to follow. For the subconscious does not listen to your arguments. It listens to your state. The law of life does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are feeling yourself to be. Thought is only the messenger. Feeling is the verdict. Many mistake excitement for power. They become inflamed with desire, stirred with emotion, carried on waves of hope, and they imagine that this heat is creation. But excitement is unstable. It rises quickly and falls just as quickly. It is born of lack. It burns because it longs, and longing is the confession of absence. True creation is quiet. True possession is calm. When a thing is already yours, you are not electrified by it. You are not trembling with anticipation. You are at peace. The man who owns bread is not excited about bread. He is simply not hungry. The man who possesses wealth inwardly is not frantic about money. He is settled. Excitement says, I cannot wait. Possession says, it is done. Excitement leans forward. Possession reclines. Excitement is noisy. Possession is silent. The subconscious does not answer noise. It answers certainty. You may shout 1,000 affirmations into a nervous body and nothing will move. But one single moment of deep bodily relief, one quiet wave of inner peace, one soft surrender of the chest into safety, will move more mountains than years of strange declaration. For the law obeys the body, not the lips. The body is the true believer. The body accepts or rejects long before the intellect understands. When the body relaxes into a state, the decree has been signed. Watch your breath when you imagine wealth. Does it tighten? Then you are imagining from lack. Does it deepen and slow? Then you are touching possession. Watch your shoulders. Do they rise as if preparing for struggle, or do they drop as if surrendering to security? The body never lies. It cannot pretend. It reveals the state you have truly entered. This is why faith is not an idea. Faith is a sensation. It is the feeling of having crossed a bridge so fully that you no longer look back to see if it still stands. You may believe with the mind and still be frozen in fear, and fear will rule. You may doubt with the mind and still feel calm in the body, and calm will rule. The younger part of you, the deeper part, the subconscious part, speaks only the language of sensation. When you feel safe, life must justify safety. When you feel chosen, life must prove selection. When you feel abundant, life must generate overflow. Not because you deserve it, not because you asked for it, but because the law must remain consistent with the state you inhabit. The great error of man is this: he tries to force feeling with thought. He repeats phrases that his body does not believe. He wages war with his nerves. He tries to override years of conditioning with loud sentences, and the nervous system rebels. It listens only to what feels real. A man may say, I am wealthy, while his stomach is tight, his jaw clenched, his breath shallow. The subconscious hears not wealth, but danger. And danger is what it prepares for. The outer world faithfully reflects that verdict. Another man may say nothing at all, but rest quietly in a sense of sufficiency. His body carries no urgency. His eyes do not search. His breath is free, and provision seeks him out as naturally as water flows downhill. It is not what you think before sleep that matters most. It is what you feel as you fall into sleep. When the day fades and the senses withdraw their tyranny, the mind loses its edge, and the body becomes honest. Whatever state you carry, then, is the state you plant, and whatever you plant, then, must grow. If you fall asleep tense, you plant tension. If you fall asleep worried, you plant delay. If you fall asleep longing, you plant absence. If you fall asleep in peace, you plant fulfillment. Peace is not emptiness. Peace is the signal that the seed is correctly placed. This is why I say again and again that when the feeling of the wish fulfilled has been attained, you must enter the Sabbath and rest. The Sabbath is not a day on the calendar. It is the stillness that follows acceptance. It is the moment when striving ends, because possession has begun inwardly. You cannot force yourself into peace. You must allow yourself to enter it by consent. Peace does not come from convincing the mind. It comes from settling the body. The body rests when danger is over. The subconscious relaxes when it believes the quest is complete. The proof of correct imagining is not fireworks. It is rest. When you have impressed the subconscious, you feel done. You stop checking. You stop repeating. You stop chasing. Not because you lost interest, but because the need has dissolved. The man who continues to pound affirmations with desperation is confessing that he has not accepted the end. He is still in the middle, and the middle is where creation stalls. You must understand this deeply. The law is never impressed by effort. It is impressed by naturalness. Whatever feels natural becomes law in your world. If wealth feels unnatural, it will pass through you as a stranger. If it feels natural, it will settle as a resident. This is why so many experience fleeting bursts of abundance only to lose them. They touched money without touching identity. They altered the effect without altering the cause, and the old cause quietly reasserted itself. Your task is not to force wealth into your life. Your task is to allow wealth to feel safe inside your body. For many, wealth feels unsafe. Power feels dangerous. Freedom feels unfamiliar. And the body resists not because it is wrong, but because it has been trained by years of memory, observation, and quiet agreements you once made in fear. You must now gently retrain it, not through shock, but through familiarity. You do this by repeatedly entering the feeling of fulfillment without waiting for proof. You allow your nervous system to practice being safe in abundance before abundance appears. You let your breath rehearse security. You let your muscles rehearse ease. You let your heart rehearse possession. This rehearsal is done most perfectly in the moments before sleep, when the world dissolves and the body becomes the stage of imagination. In that hour, you do not try to see money. You allow yourself to feel what it would be like if money were no longer an issue. You feel the absence of pressure. You feel the absence of calculation. You feel the absence of dread. You feel space. And space is the vibration of wealth. The poor man lives in tightness. The rich man lives in space. Not space in buildings, but space in the chest. Not space in accounts, but space in breath. Not space in possessions, but space in being. When your inner world becomes spacious, your outer world must echo it. This is why I urge you not to seek visions that excite the mind, but sensations that calm the body. The calm body is the body that believes the promise has already been kept. You do not need the thrill of possibility. You need the peace of accomplishment. And now I say something that the world finds strange. The moment you can think of money without emotional charge, you have crossed the threshold. When money no longer tightens you, excites you, frightens you, defines you, or rules your breath, it has already lost mastery over you. And when it loses mastery, it begins to serve. The subconscious cannot serve a master. It still fears. It responds only to safety. If money represents danger to your nervous system, it will remain distant for your own protection. If money represents security in your body, it will approach naturally. This again is not punishment. It is perfect intelligence. The body is the instrument of faith. Faith is not belief. Faith is not belief. Faith is the absence of emergency. When faith is present, the heart slows, the hands soften, the future loses its sharp edge, and the world, finding no resistance in you, rearranges itself. This is why affirmations without sensation fail. They speak at the lips while the body contradicts, and the subconscious always sides with the body. A whispered truth that feels real will outweigh a shouted declaration that feels false. Better silence than false declaration. Better stillness than forced confession. Better one breath of true relief than hours of linguistic effort. You are not here to fight yourself into abundance. You are here to let go into it. The seed does not force the soil receives. You do not force the law receives you when you become its match. So now, as these words flow through you, you may notice something subtle beginning to shift. The shoulders may loosen slightly. The breathing may deepen unconsciously. The weight of urgency may grow lighter without you deciding that it should. This is not imagination. This is the law stirring. You are not commanding your body. Your body is recognizing truth, and recognition is the deepest form of creation. You need not strain to hold this feeling. Let it be what it is. Let it move through you like a tide that knows its destination without your help. The ocean does not hurry, yet the shore is always reached. So also with wealth, security, provision, and freedom. They do not respond to your hurry. They respond to your surrender. Not surrender in weakness, but surrender in authority. The authority of one who no longer begs outcomes from the world, but quietly assumes them within. And now in this state, without command, without demand, without performance, you begin to feel the law rather than analyze it. You begin to sense it as a current beneath your life, rather than as a concept above it. This is where thought dissolves into being. This is where the body becomes the temple of assumption. This is where peace announces that the seed has entered the soil. And from this place, creation no longer feels like work. It feels inevitable. Before there was form, before there was light, before there was sound, before there was even the idea of a world, there was only awareness. And when that awareness was asked its name, it did not give a title, it did not give a description, it did not give a history. It answered only with being. I am. This was not a phrase. This was identity speaking itself into existence. This was God naming God. And I tell you now with the utmost gravity, every time you say I am, you are touching the same creative center. You are not describing yourself, you are defining yourself. You are not making an observation. You are issuing a decree. Men use this name more carelessly than any other. They attach it to fear, to weakness, to failure, to lack. They say, I am tired, I am unlucky, I am poor, I am stuck, and they believe they are describing a moment. They do not realize they are baptizing themselves into an identity. They weld the infinite power of being to temporary conditions, and the law which never questions obeys with frightening accuracy. The phrase I am is not a sentence. It is a commandment to the subconscious. It is the seal of identity. It is the infinite consenting to become something specific through you. And once consent is given, form must follow. There is no negotiation. There is no delay. There is only fulfillment. You may pray for years to be lifted out of lack. You may plead with tears for freedom. You may beg life for relief. But if inwardly you continue to whisper, I am not enough, the deeper law will always honor the identity over the petition. The whisper will outweigh the shout. The world does not answer your hopes. It answers your self-definition. This is why it is not enough to want wealth. You must become willing to name yourself as the one who already is. And this naming is not done with bravado. It is not done with shouting. It is not done with emotional violence. It is done with quiet finality. When a man truly says inwardly, I am secure, he does not say it as a wish. He does not say it as a challenge to fate. He says it as a recognition, and the body responds first. The breath deepens, the shoulders ease, the urgency dissolves. And in that moment, the order has already been given in the only language the subconscious understands. You must be very careful what you allow to follow I am. For whatever follows, it will pursue you with unsleeping loyalty. It will arrange your relationships. It will choose your opportunities. It will shape your finances. It will govern your health. It will command the very tone of your life. To say, I am struggling, is to enroll in struggle. To say, I am always short, is to schedule loss. To say I am unlucky is to appoint chance as your ruler. And to say I am secure is to install safety as your climate. To say I am provided for is to authorize supply. To say I am wealthy is to permit abundance to take root. You must understand that the law does not test the truth of this claim. It does not verify it through evidence. It builds it through alignment. The world is not the judge of your I am. It is the servant of it. This is why I warn you, never use the name of God lightly. And the name of God is not a word on your lips. It is I am moving through your consciousness. Every misuse of it is answered. Every correct use of it is crowned. When you attach I am to poverty, even in jest, the subconscious does not laugh. It obeys. When you attach I am to limitation, even in frustration, the law does not sympathize. It fulfills. This is not cruelty. This is mechanical fidelity. You do not become wealthy by hoping to become wealthy. You become wealthy the moment you dare inwardly, without apology, without defense, to name yourself as such in being. To say, I will be rich one day, is to speak as a traveler. To say, I hope I become abundant, is to speak as a dreamer. To say, I am wealthy, is to speak as a creator. The future bows to that voice, not because the voice is loud, but because it is absolute. You may ask, but how can I say I am wealthy when my eyes see none of it? And I answer you gently. You already say I am afraid without proof. You already say I am nervous without evidence. You already say I am about to fail without confirmation. And the body believes you instantly. Why should abundance be the only one that requires permission? The truth is not that wealth is harder to accept. The truth is that you have practiced the old identity for so long that the new one feels illegal. But the law of being does not care about legality. It cares about consent. You must learn to touch I am correctly, not through repetition, not through emotional effort, through stillness. You do not rush into it. You approach it as you would approach a sacred flame. You let the body become quiet. You release the breath. You allow the outer world to fade. And when the mind grows still enough to hear its own echo, you rest aware of awareness itself. I am. Do not attach anything to it at first. Let it stand alone. Let it expand in you. Let it feel like pure existence without boundary. This is the highest prayer there is. Not asking, not pleading, being. And only when that stillness is present do you allow the state of wealth to clothe it gently, not like a costume, but like a memory returning. I am secure. I am provided for. I am complete. I am abundant. Each of these must feel like recognition, not assertion. The moment it feels like effort, you are no longer touching identity. You are trying to force belief, and force belongs to doubt. True, I am never strains. It declares and rests. When I am wealthy feels calm instead of hungry, quiet instead of desperate, settled instead of sharp. You have crossed the inner gate. The subconscious is not moved by ambition. It is moved by authority. Authority is quiet. Authority does not persuade. It assumes. Authority does not wait. It knows. This is why the moment I am settles into the body as sensation rather than thought, the bridge of events begins to assemble without your consent. You are no longer in dialogue with life. You are issuing instructions, and life obeys. The tragic misuse of I am is the reason so many remain bound without chains. A child once told, "You are not enough," may grow into a man who whispers, "I am not enough" for decades without ever hearing the words again. Yet every door, every relationship, every financial ceiling will obey that sentence as law. He may pray for abundance. He may work faithfully. He may imagine success. But the deeper decree always overrides the request. Identity always outranks effort. The same law that enslaves also liberates. The moment a man withdraws I am from his old condition and attaches it deliberately to a new state, the entire direction of his life shifts, not symbolically, structurally. Whether the world agrees or not does not matter. Appearances are lagging reflections. They are shadows cast by yesterday's assumptions. You do not consult the shadow to determine the man. You consult the man, and the shadow must follow. So now I tell you with clarity how to use this name rightly, not by fighting your doubts, not by suppressing fear, but by choosing identity in silence, at night, just before sleep, When effort loosens and resistance thins, you touch I am like a soft bell ringing in a vast empty hall. You do not push it forward. You allow it to echo inwardly, I am. And when the stillness receives it, you let the new state rest upon it like a garment placed without strain. I am secure. I am provided for. I am the one who already has. Then you stop. You do not continue. You do not repeat. You do not analyze. You allow sleep to carry the identity deeper. This is not suggestion. This is not programming. This is submission to your own creative authority. This is you consenting to be what you have already decided. And when you sleep in I am, you do not place a seed, you become the seed. When you wake, you do not test it, you live from it. You do not scan the world for proof. Proof is always delayed. Identity is always immediate. And slowly, quietly, inevitably, the world begins to address you differently. Men speak to you with new respect. Circumstances soften without explanation. Provision appears through channels you did not design, and you will know that the name has been impressed. Not because miracles shout, but because everything begins to feel inevitable. The state of wealth does not hurry, it flows. The state of wealth does not justify, it expects. The state of wealth does not beg, it rests. When these qualities become natural in you, the outer confirmation cannot be delayed. So tonight, when you lie down, I ask you for nothing heroic. Only this: touch your being without apology. Touch I am without shrinking. Let it stand naked in awareness, and let abundance attach itself like breath to the lungs. You will not feel fireworks. You will feel peace, and peace is the seal of creation. For whenever I am speaks from stillness, the universe listens. There is a doorway that every man crosses each night without knowing what he passes through. A narrow interval where the visible world loosens its grip and the unseen opens its arms. It is neither waking nor sleeping, yet it belongs to both. It is that soft moment when effort fades, when the will no longer struggles, when the senses grow dim and imagination stands quietly awake. It is there, and only there, that the deepest changes are made. All day long the rational mind stands guard. It measures, doubts, compares, resists. It protects the old story. It defends the familiar limits. It asks, how and why and what if. It argues with every noble assumption and drags it back toward the old identity. But as night comes, the guard grows weary, the body softens, the breath slows, the muscles release, the will weakens. And in that surrender, the gate opens. This is not a mystical trance. It is not something rare. It is not reserved for the gifted. It is the most natural state you know. You have entered it thousands of times in your life. You enter it each time you fall asleep. You simply did not know the power you carried into it. Just before sleep, the world begins to fade at the edges. Sounds grow distant, the mind drifts, thoughts become slow and dreamlike, the sharpness of logic dissolves, the body grows heavy and warm. And in that gentle descent, the imagination becomes sovereign. It no longer meets resistance. It no longer needs persuasion. It no longer argues. It simply accepts. This is the state I have called the state akin to sleep. Not sleep itself, but the doorway into it, the womb before the birth, the silence before creation speaks. In the waking world, you imagine from desire. In this state, you imagine from being. The difference is everything. You do not enter this state by force. You enter it by yielding. The more you try to control it, the farther it retreats. The moment you stop trying, it arrives. It comes on the breath. It comes on the breath. It comes on the sinking of the body. It comes on the soft dimming of attention. You lie down, as you always do. There is no special posture required. The law loves what is natural. If your body prefers its side, then let it rest upon its side. If it prefers its back, then let it recline, as it always has. You are not inducing something artificial. You are allowing the most familiar ritual in your life to become conscious. As you lie there, you feel the body begin to withdraw from the day. The weight increases, the limbs soften, the eyelids grow heavy. The mind loses interest in plans and calculations. It is no longer eager to solve, it is ready to drift. That is the signal. The rational guardian is loosening its hold. This is the moment most men fall asleep. Unconsciously, they carry the day with them. They carry the argument, the fear, the lack, the humiliation, the pressure. And as they drift, that is planted. The same seed is sown again, and they awaken, surprised that life has not changed. But now you do not drift unconsciously. Now you choose. You do not wrestle the mind. You do not attack the day. You simply allow the body to fall while you remain inwardly aware. Awareness at rest is the key, not effort, not tension, not control, just quiet presence. As sensation deepens, you may notice the moment when the breath grows slow and even without you guiding it. You may notice the moment when thoughts begin to appear less like statements and more like fragments. You may notice that pleasant floating sensation, as though you were suspended between two worlds. That is the threshold. In that moment, the outer world has lost authority. The senses are still present, but their voice is soft. The imagination now speaks clearly, and whatever is accepted there becomes law. You do not need to make pictures sharp. You do not need vivid detail. Vividness comes naturally when resistance is gone. You do not strain to see. You allow yourself to feel, for this is not the realm of pictures. It is the realm of identity. What you accept in that state is not an idea. It is an instruction. All day long, the subconscious is sealed off by reason. At night, the seal breaks, and what flows in shapes the mold of tomorrow. You must not rush this process. The state akin to sleep cannot be commanded. It can only be invited. And the invitation is always gentle. The invitation is rest. You lie down, you breathe, you soften. You release the muscles one quiet region at a time. The feet, the calves, the thighs. The hips sink. The lower back loosens. The chest rises and falls without demand. The shoulders drop. The arms become heavy. The jaw slackens. The forehead smooths. The eyes retreat into darkness. And as the body grows still, the inner world becomes vivid. The outer man grows quiet. The inner man awakens. This is why imagination is most powerful at night. It is no longer competing with sight. It is no longer interrupted by sound. It is no longer corrected by logic. It stands alone in sovereignty. In this state, the subconscious does not evaluate. It does not analyze. It does not ask whether something is possible. It does not compare it to past failure. It simply receives what is felt as true. This is the drowsiness that the world considers weakness. I tell you, it is the gateway of power. For in drowsiness, the will surrenders. And where the will surrenders, creation begins. The world has trained you to stay alert, as though alertness were strength. It has not taught you that in the yielding of the senses lies the authority of imagination. You do not need discipline to enter this state. You need permission. Permission to stop striving. Permission to stop watching. Permission to stop checking. Permission to simply be. When the mind releases its grip on tomorrow, the future is shaped. When the mind releases its argument with yesterday, the past is healed. When the mind releases the demand to control, the law moves freely. In this state, imagination is not fantasy. It is memory of the future. You are not picturing what might be. You are recalling what already exists as possibility and choosing it as fact. And the moment it is chosen as fact in that threshold between worlds, the rest is inevitable. You do not enter this state to force a scene. You enter it to dissolve resistance. Once resistance dissolves, the scene arises naturally. It comes the way a dream comes. You do not build it. It forms itself. And here is a secret few understand. The more you try to stabilize the scene by effort, the less power it holds. But the moment you allow yourself to gently repeat a simple implication without strain, the subconscious accepts it deeply. This is not concentration. It is absorption. The child does not concentrate to believe the dream. It absorbs it. And so must you. In the waking world, you must persuade yourself. In the state akin to sleep, you simply receive. You do not argue with imagination there. You merge with it. And when you merge with it, it becomes real. This is why the drowsy state is the portal. It is the dissolving of the border between inner and outer. It is the yielding of the old man, so the new may pass. Many fail not because they cannot imagine, but because they try to imagine while standing in full daylight with all their old defenses raised. They are trying to plant a seed in stone. They are placing truth into a clenched fist, and then they wonder why nothing grows. But when the hand opens in sleep, the seed falls into living soil. The body is the access point. The mind must quiet, but the body must soften. If the body remains tense, the subconscious stays guarded. But when the body relaxes, the gate stands open. This is why breath is so crucial, not as a technique, as a signal. When the breath grows deep and slow, the subconscious knows the world is safe. When the breath is fast and tight, the subconscious stays on watch. You do not command the breath. You allow the body to breathe you. And when the body begins to breathe itself, the door is near. The moment thoughts lose their urgency is the moment imagination gains sovereignty. This is the sacred carelessness of the threshold. Carelessness not as neglect, but as freedom from strain. The world fades, the rules soften, the familiar dissolves, and into that quiet theater, the new identity may enter fully clothed. Here, effort is not only useless, it is obstructive. Here, control is the enemy. Here, relaxation is the scepter. You do not hold the scene in this state. You allow the scene to hold you. You do not guide the feeling. You let the feeling carry you down into sleep. You do not survive the threshold. You surrender to it. And in that surrender, what you are becomes what you will experience. Every night you pass through this gate. Most nights you pass through unaware. Tonight, and from this night forward, you pass through as creator. You do not fall asleep hoping, you fall asleep accepting. You do not fall asleep wishing, you fall asleep being. And what you are at that moment is what the law must express. So now you are prepared, not with technique, not with steps, but with understanding that the most powerful moment of your entire day is not when you act in the world, but when you surrender from it. The drowsiness you once considered weakness is the very opening through which destiny is printed. And when you step into that softness with awareness, you carry the power of worlds into your rest. Now we begin, not as a lesson, not as an exercise, but as a passage. There is nothing you must achieve, nothing you must force, nothing you must prove. You are not here to make something happen. You are here to enter a state that already exists. Let the day fall away now. Let its noise soften. Let its weight loosen. You have carried it long enough. Lie as you are, in the position your body prefers. There is no perfect posture. There is only the posture of surrender. Let the surface beneath you receive your weight. You do not need to hold yourself anymore. The bed will hold you. The floor will hold you. The night will hold you. Bring your attention gently to your breathing. Do not change it. Do not control it. Simply notice that it is happening. Life is breathing you without your effort. Feel the coolness as the air enters. Feel the warmth as it leaves. With every exhale, something releases. With every breath out, you sink a little deeper. Your body already knows how to rest. You do not teach it, you allow it. Now feel your feet, not as ideas, as sensations. The toes, the soles, the ankles. Notice any tightness without judging it. And as you breathe out, imagine that tightness melting away as though warmth were flowing through them. Let them grow heavy. Let them sink. Now the calves, the knees, the thighs. With each breath, the muscles loosen. The bones grow warm. The weight of the body increases as resistance fades. Nothing is being held now. Let the hips sink. Let the lower back soften. Let the abdomen release all the tension it has been carrying silently for years. The chest rises and falls without demand. The heart beats without supervision. You are being lived. You may rest now. Let the shoulders drop. The burden of the day slides off them. The arms grow loose. The hands open gently. The fingers curl naturally. There is no grasping here. There is nothing to reach for. There is nothing to hold on to. Now the neck softens. The jaw unclenches. The tongue rests gently in the mouth. The skin of the face loosens. The eyes sink back into darkness. The forehead smooths. The expression of effort disappears. There is nothing left to do. Feel how heavy you are becoming. Not tense. Heavy and safe. Heavy and yielded. This is not weakness. This is power returning inward. As the body rests, the mind grows slower. Thoughts begin to drift instead of march. Images appear like soft clouds instead of sharp commands. This is good. This is the gate opening. You do not rush through it. You allow it. Now we choose one simple thing, not many. One small moment that implies your wealth is already a fact. Not the process, not the struggle, only the end. Perhaps you see your own hand holding a statement. You do not need to read the details. You only need to recognize the feeling it gives you, that quiet recognition that this is more than enough. Or perhaps you hear the voice of someone you trust, saying, I am so happy for you. Everything has worked out. Or perhaps you are standing in your own home, feeling that nothing is owed, nothing is pending, nothing is missing. Choose only one. Let it be simple. Let it be short. The subconscious does not need explanation. It needs implication. Now gently step into it, not as one watching it from a distance, as the one living it. If you hold something, feel its texture, its weight, its temperature. If someone speaks to you, hear them from behind your own eyes. Feel the sound move through your body. If you are standing somewhere, feel the floor beneath your feet, the temperature of the room, the stillness of the air. Do not force detail. Allow what is natural to arise. Now notice what happens in the body as you accept this moment as real. The chest softens, the breath deepens, the stomach loosens. That is not imagination. That is acceptance. You are not pretending. You are remembering a future that is already true in this deeper level. If a thought tries to interrupt, how, when, why, do not fight it. Let it pass like a voice in another room. You return gently to the feeling of already done. You may softly allow one simple phrase to arise inwardly, not as a chant, but as a breath of recognition. It is done, or thank you, or it is wonderful. Let it float through you once and disappear. Now let the edges of the scene blur if they wish. You are not here to keep the picture sharp. You are here to keep the feeling alive, the feeling of being provided for, the feeling of being safe, the feeling of being finished with striving. If the picture fades but the feeling remains, you have succeeded. Now allow the actual sensations of your bed to merge with the assumed life. The pillow beneath your head is the pillow of the one who already has. The darkness around you is the calm darkness of a life at peace. The blanket over you belongs to the one whose future is secure. You do not switch between worlds. You blend them. Now allow the drowsiness to deepen without letting go of the state. The body grows heavier, the breath slower, the mind softer. You are not holding the scene anymore. The scene is holding you. You do not need excitement. You do not need intensity. You need only the quiet conviction that nothing is missing. If the mind wanders briefly, return without criticism. Return like a mother guiding a child back to rest. There is no urgency here. There is no clock. There is no deadline. Now feel the gentle transition beginning, that floating sensation, that drifting, the moment where thought becomes dreamlike. Do not pull yourself back to check if you are doing it right. That is the old man trying to regain control. Let go. Let yourself be carried. If the scene reduces to only fragments, that is enough. If it reduces to only the feeling, that is perfect. The subconscious does not require images. It requires surrender. You are now crossing the threshold with the state still intact. You are not hoping for wealth. You are sleeping as wealth. Each breath carries you deeper into that identity. The old tension dissolves. The old waiting dissolves. The old hunger dissolves. You are not preparing to receive. You have received. Now you sleep. Not as one who seeks, but as one who possesses. Not as one who begs tomorrow to change, but as one who knows tomorrow must echo what has already been accepted. You do not need to think anything more. You do not need to imagine anything more. You do not need to affirm anything more. You have entered the state. Sleep now. Let creation do what it has always done without your interference. The law is awake while you rest. What you call your past is not behind you. It is within you. It is not an archive of dead hours. It is a living state of feeling that continues to speak unless you silence it. The world teaches you that events are fixed, that what happened is sealed, that time moves only forward. I tell you that this is the greatest misunderstanding of the human mind. Time does not move forward. States move forward, and the past lives only as the state you continue to occupy. You are not burdened by what happened. You are burdened by how you remember it. You are not imprisoned by the event. You are imprisoned by the feeling it left behind. The event is over. The feeling continues, and the feeling is the cause. Every wound that still aches in your life aches because it still lives as sensation. Every financial failure that still terrifies you because its emotional echo was never dissolved. And so you relive it not as memory, but as fate. This is why I tell you that the past is not a fact. The past is a state, and states can be entered and exited. States can be assumed and abandoned. States can be revised. Revision is not pretending that something did not happen. It is refusing to let it continue to govern you. It is the sacred act of withdrawing identity from a moment that once claimed authority and reclaiming it for yourself. You are not rewriting history. You are rewriting the cause from which your future flows. Every night, as you fall towards sleep, the subconscious opens again its doors, and whatever is felt as true in that moment is taken as law. This gives you a power that almost no one uses knowingly. You may return to a day that wounded you and change it at the root. You may revise not only what occurred, but who you were within it. And when who you were changes, who you will be must change with it. If you fell today and you sleep tonight as the one who fell, you will rise tomorrow as the one who will fall again. But if you fall today and you revise yourself tonight as the one who stood, you will rise as a different man. This is not poetry. This is law. The subconscious does not know what actually happened. It knows only what you feel to be true now. It does not consult clocks. It does not consult witnesses. It obeys feeling, and feeling is always in the present. This is why shame persists. This is why humiliation lingers. This is why debt terrifies, long after it is paid. This is why a man can be financially free on paper and still live in chains within. He has never revised the emotional root of his bondage, and so the state continues. You must understand this deeply. You are not revising the scene. You are revising yourself in the scene. And when the self changes, the future follows automatically. Many sleep with yesterday burning in their chest. They replay the insult. They relive the failure. They rehearse the loss. They fall asleep feeling as the man who was defeated. And then they wonder why life keeps defeating them. They have planted the same seed again. Revision interrupts this cycle. As you enter the quiet night, you gently revisit the day that has just passed, not as a judge, not as a victim, as an editor, as one who holds authorship of meaning. You move through it slowly in memory, as though reviewing a performance. And wherever the scene contradicts the identity you now choose, you pause. You do not argue with it. You do not justify it. You replace it. If you were dismissed, you rewrite acceptance. If you were ignored, you rewrite recognition. If you were unpaid, you rewrite provision. If you were embarrassed, you rewrite dignity. If you were short of money, you rewrite overflow. And you do not watch it as a story. You re-enter it as the one living it. You hear different words spoken to you. You feel a different outcome move through your body. You allow the sensation of relief, pride, security, gratitude to take the place of the old pain. The old pain dissolves not because you fight it, but because it is displaced by a stronger feeling. When you revise, you are not lying to yourself. You are telling the deeper truth, the truth that the outer event never had authority, the truth that consciousness was always the cause, even when it seemed to be the effect. You must not rehearse the wound again in order to revise it. You touch it only long enough to recognize where the identity bent inwardly, and then you straighten it with feeling. You let the new version be soft, natural, ordinary. The subconscious rejects drama. It accepts normality. And here is the great key. You must accept the revised scene as the only version, not as a hope, not as a wish, as the fact. The moment you treat it as an imaginary replacement rather than as truth, you weaken its authority. You must dare to accept the invisible as more powerful than the visible, for the visible was always born from the invisible. If a man was shamed in childhood and never revises himself into dignity, that child continues to command the man. His business suffers, his confidence weakens, his relationships bend under the weight of a long-forgotten echo. He thinks he is responding to the present. He is obeying a memory. But the moment he returns inwardly to that scene and revises himself into approval, strength, and worth, the chains fall quietly, not in the past, in the living present. And the future must now grow from freedom instead of fear. This is why revision is wealth. It does not merely repair emotion, it reorders destiny. There is no financial failure that revision cannot neutralize, because there is no financial failure that exists outside of state. There is no humiliation that revision cannot dissolve, because humiliation lives only as remembered feeling. You do not change your life by changing behavior at the surface. You change your life by changing the state you fall asleep in. When you revise correctly, the old emotional charge is gone. The memory no longer stings. You can think of the former lack without tightening. You can recall the old failure without shrinking. And when the sting is gone, the state has been released. That release is not forgetting. It is freedom, and freedom is the true wealth. When you fall asleep after revising, you do not sleep as a man who suffered. You sleep as a man who triumphed. And the subconscious does not build from suffering. It builds from triumph. There are men who carry invisible debts far heavier than financial ones. Debts of shame, debts of fear, debts of apology. They walk as though owing life an explanation, and life responds by keeping them in want. Not because it is cruel, but because they still feel obligated to their own past. Revision cancels those debts. The night is the courtroom. The mind is silent. The defenses fall. And you, not as victim but as judge, issue a final verdict, not against yourself, for yourself. You do not go to bed as the man the day tried to make you. You go to bed as the man you have decided to be. If the day was prosperous, you bless it and sleep in gratitude. If the day was painful, you rewrite it and sleep in victory. If the day was poor, you revise it and sleep in riches. If the day was lonely, you revise it and sleep in companionship. If the day was fearful, you revise it and sleep in safety. What you carry into sleep is multiplied. This is the law. Not sometimes, always. The man who revises consistently will watch his life soften in ways he cannot logically explain. The world will no longer provoke him the way it once did. The same circumstances will appear, but they will not attach. The echoes of the old state will fade like a dream dissolving in morning light. For this is exactly what they are. Dreams of yesterday kept alive by consent. And now you withdraw consent. You do not revise in anger. You revise in calm authority. You do not argue with memory. You simply replace it. You do not demand that the subconscious justify you. You instruct it. You are not changing scenes. You are changing the self who lives in scenes. And that self governs all that follows. When you free the past, you free the future. When you dissolve shame, you dissolve poverty. When you heal failure, you heal finance. For they were never separate. Your money always followed your self-image. When the image changes, the money has no choice but to follow. This is why the truly rich man is not merely the one with provision. He is the man who is emotionally unburdened. He is not haunted. He is not hounded by memory. He is not dragged backward by regret. He is free, and freedom is the deepest wealth there is. Now, after revision, sleep is no longer escape. Sleep is integration. You are no longer trying to fix tomorrow. You have corrected the cause. The past is silent now. The future is unforced now. The present is open. You have not erased memory. You have redeemed it. And redemption is not religious here. It is mechanical. The wheel of fate no longer turns on the axis of pain. It turns on the axis of peace. And peace generates provision. This is the secret men search for in numbers and never find. Wealth is not made of currency. It is made of emotional neutrality toward life. And revision builds that neutrality. So tonight, you do not sleep as the man who failed. You sleep as the man who succeeded inwardly. And the world must organize itself to agree. For the outer world is a servant, never a master. It does not command you. It obeys you. And tonight, you have taken back the pen. Now you do not go to sleep as one who hopes. You do not drift into rest as one who is waiting. You do not enter the night as one who is trying to make something happen. You go to sleep as one who has already arrived. The striving is over. The reaching is finished. The asking has dissolved into knowing. There is a great difference between the man who sleeps in desire and the man who sleeps in fulfillment. One carries tension into the night. The other carries certainty. One watches the darkness with anxious eyes. The other is embraced by it, as by a trusted companion. One whispers, "Will it come?" The other breathes, "It is already here." When I say to you, "It is done," I am not offering comfort. I am stating a law. Creation does not respond to effort. Creation responds to identity. And identity does not strain. Identity rests. You are not required to guard the law. The law guards you. You are not required to monitor manifestation. Manifestation flows from state. You are not required to watch the world for signs. Signs follow believers, not watchers. The man who constantly looks to see if it is working has already confessed that it is not. The man who checks the soil each hour has already uprooted the seed. The man who waits for proof has already postponed possession. But the man who sleeps as though it were finished has already claimed it. You must understand this profoundly. Anxiety is not neutrality. Urgency is not faith. Expectation is not possession. Waiting is not knowing. These are all subtle forms of doubt, dressed as hope. When you sleep as the new man, there is no emotional reaching outward. There is no leaning forward into tomorrow. There is only resting inward into certainty. The future does not pull you. The present holds you. This is the final seal. The seal is not effort. The seal is not repetition. The seal is not visualization. The seal is rest. When the state becomes natural, sleep becomes prayer without words. Sleep becomes certainty without declaration. Sleep becomes the silent yes spoken by the entire being. You do not beg when you are at the table. You do not plead when the door is already open. You do not ask when the gift is in your hand. And so you do not sleep asking, you sleep possessing. There is a stillness that comes when identity has shifted completely. The nervous system no longer scans. The breath no longer searches. The mind no longer negotiates. You do not rehearse failure. You do not protect against disappointment. You do not brace for absence. You rest in presence. This is the sleep of the new man. The old man slept with calculation. The old man slept with fear. The old man slept with bargaining. The old man slept with what if. But the new man sleeps with so be it. And so be it is not resignation. It is completion. You do not need permission from the world to be what you have already assumed. You do not require confirmation. You do not request validation. You do not seek movement. You have become. The world does not decide whether you are rich. You decide. And once decided, at the level of being, the world has no remaining vote. So tonight, when your body becomes heavy and your breathing slows, you are not drifting into unconsciousness. You are settling into a throne. You are not sinking into darkness. You are dissolving into authority. There is nothing to do. There is nothing to fix. There is nothing to chase. The chase ended the moment you became the one who is chased. You will not measure progress. You will not count days. You will not calculate outcomes. You will not scan the horizon. You will live. And living from the end is the greatest declaration there is. There is a kind of quiet that comes only after identity is sealed. It is not excitement. Excitement belongs to anticipation. It is not relief. Relief belongs to escape. It is not satisfaction. Satisfaction belongs to achievement. This quiet belongs to inevitability. When a thing is inevitable, the body does not rush. The mind does not argue. The heart does not plead. It simply allows. This is the state in which sleep becomes law. The old life ended not with fireworks, but with silence. The old identity did not collapse in drama. It simply lost relevance. It faded the way a dream fades when you awaken, not in violence, in irrelevance. You do not fight the old man. You outgrow him. And growth requires no witnesses. Now when you close your eyes, you are not rehearsing techniques. You are not repeating formulas. You are not directing scenes. You are simply embodying being. The richness is not in the picture. It is in the weightlessness of not needing the picture anymore. For when the state is fixed, the image is no longer required. You no longer need to imagine security when you are security. You no longer need to imagine provision when you are provision. You no longer need to imagine victory when you have stopped recognizing defeat. And this is why the final sleep is the deepest act of trust there is. Sleep is saying to the universe, I do not need to control the process. Sleep is saying to the subconscious, I have placed the order. Sleep is saying to time, you no longer intimidate me. Sleep is saying to the world, you will catch up. When fear dissolves, urgency goes with it. When urgency dissolves, waiting collapses. When waiting collapses, anxiety loses its breath. And when anxiety loses its breath, faith becomes effortless, and effortless faith is the creative force. You are no longer waiting for your life to begin. You are no longer paused between two identities. You are no longer suspended between old and new. You have stepped across the line quietly, and the line does not announce itself. It is crossed in feeling, not in sound. Tomorrow you may wake to the same room, the same walls, the same street, the same sounds, but you will not wake as the same man, and the world does not change for the old man. It changes for the new one. The moment you stop trying to make it happen is the moment it must. For creation resists pressure, but yields to identity. This is why I say to you now, not as encouragement, but as declaration, it is done. Not because you will make it so, because you have already become the one for whom it is so. You are not moving toward abundance. You have stepped into it. You are not approaching freedom. You are standing in it. You are not waiting for arrival. You have arrived, and arrival has no noise. The river does not announce that it has joined the ocean. The sun does not declare that it has risen. The seed does not proclaim that it is now a tree. They simply are. So now you simply are. There is nothing left to prove. There is nothing left to persuade. There is nothing left to activate. There is nothing left to unlock. There is nothing left to become. You are. And the world will echo that being, whether slowly or suddenly, whether gently or dramatically, whether by one door or by 1,000. The form does not matter. The identity has already spoken. And once identity speaks, reality must answer. So close your eyes tonight, not as one who waits, but as one who is waited upon. Let the body soften, not as one who is tired, but as one who is finished with the old struggle. Let the breath deepen, not in seeking, but in knowing. And somewhere between one breath and the next, without sound, without sign, without effort, the old life will finish closing like a book that no longer needs to be read again. There will be no announcement. There will be no confirmation. There will be no ceremony. Only rest. And in that rest, creation obeys. It is done.